Hello, Japanese cookie, dozo!
Hey, it's Shabes. Sally the Witch and Himitsu no Aka-chan are the two series that together started the genre of magical girls. One for anime and the other for manga. Their anime are also among the longest running in the genre, each being about as long as Sailor Moon and Ojamaja Doremi, only Precure has all of them beat. Sally also holds the distinction as the first shoujo manga adaptation, although that's using the term loosely since it's only a single volume. And yet, both these series are left virtually unknown in the West since they haven't even been translated by fans, who might only know them from a few surface-level details. For a general overview, I recommend Aaron Cerise's Maho Profile, and for a production and historical background, I recommend Ehoba's History of Magical Girls article. This video covers Sally the Witch, and provides 3 points that I think are valuable: detailing Sally's magic and how she uses it, some analysis of the main characters, differences between the original and the remake, and I also provide a truncated list of typical anime length with the best or most essential episodes of both series that I enjoyed even without subtitles. There are 2 other videos, one that provides similar information for Himitsu no Aka-chan, and the other for commentary on the genre today in the face of these initial titles. Sally Umeno is a princess from the land of magic. She's a conjurer and a manipulator, able to summon or change pretty much anything, limited only by her knowledge, imagination, physical strength, and experience. The quickest analog would be the fairy godmother from Cinderella, which Sally feels very seen by. Although she disagrees with the time limit mechanic. Sally's spells don't have a set decay period like the fairy godmother. Some even take additional effort to reverse. And there's no measurable depletion of her own magic. It comes from her physical being, like a muscle. The magic is cast physically, either invisible or as a sparkly cloud like a projectile, either with hands or winks, but not typically from a wand as you see in the OP. This creates a tactile practicality to the magic. There's timing and a presumed range she can cast the magic with. Sally can miss or struggle to properly cast it, and using lots of magic or difficult spells causes physical exhaustion. You would think such limitless power would break any kind of suspense, but that's why it matters that Sally is a young girl. The magic is a skill that Sally and her companion Cub are apprentices of. They have to study and practice magic. Her stamina is average, and needs a broom to fly, which takes some skill. She can teleport and phase through walls, but this requires concentration. Sally has her own book of spells to consult, as well as a whole library back in the magic world. The 2 witches, Sally and Cub, have their preferences. Cub is more inclined to turn into something like a bird or a dog, whereas Sally generally avoids transforming herself, sticking mainly to outfit changes instead. There's no rigid rules or system to the magic, though her father does call witchcraft a science at one point. It's arbitrary how difficult one thing is to another. Sally can easily make a dog talk, but it takes more effort to turn them into a human. Sally is able to summon a rocket ship because she saw one on TV, but she and Cub struggle conjuring a boat because they've never made one before. Some spells require incantations, other times it's easier for Sally to turn one thing into another than create it from scratch. Sometimes there's unintended side effects. Sally cures a girl's poor eyesight in exchange for her own eyesight. As for the manner in which Sally and Cub use magic, the big sticking point is that they keep their skills mostly to themselves. Sally learns early on that using magic freaks people out. Like the humans, she wants to become her friends. So she and Cub use magic discreetly or under the facade of something like a dream. That doesn't stop them from often using magic out in the open and getting seen, but nobody really scrutinizes the magical things happening around them. They just shrug it off like, well, that was weird. Sally and Cub pretty much always get away with it with no consequence, outside her father's disapproval. Sally's father often disables her magic as a way to course correct her behavior, even preemptively sometimes. Sally is tested time and again to see if she can overcome obstacles and succeed without magic. He's quite the helicopter parent, constantly watching her, but she still largely has the freedom to use magic however she wants. Sally and Cub can use their powers selfishly, generously, for good and not so good, and that's the source of all the fun. Sally's unbeatable trait for me is her sense of independence. She defiantly lives on her own, makes friends, goes to school, has adventures. The only one able to tell her what to do are her parents, and even they have a hard time keeping her down. Sally is brave, outspoken, and assertive, even motherly over time to Cub and later Poron. She escaped the land of magic at the beginning to visit Earth, because it turns out the land of magic is extremely boring. She thinks the land of humans would be more interesting, which it turns out to be. This is something we take for granted all the time. Our world is endlessly awesome and beautiful and fascinating. You don't even need to travel far to see that. There's only a handful of episodes where Sally and friends might go off into the country, go skiing or visit the beach, but it's not like Sally needs to globetrot to find the human world fun. She takes joy from our culture, our customs, our imagination. She learns social boundaries like not interfering when someone wants to overcome something themselves, giving people what they want versus giving them what they need, overcomes challenges with and without magic. Sally even develops her own emotions. One of my favorite episodes is how she realizes she's never cried before, and struggles with showing empathy. That's not even a magic alien story learning to be more like the humans. This is something lots of people have difficulty with, expressing empathy. She even chooses to go to regular elementary school in favor of her own studies in the magic world. We sometimes think of school as an imprisoning institution, which arguably it is. But challenging yourself in a mostly safe environment alongside your friends when you're young is invaluable. I loved school, and I do miss it sometimes, which is how these anime can function as escapism without being vapid wish fulfillment. I learned that from a wise oomph. Making a show about watching a witch girl who could do just about anything struggle with algebra is just really entertaining to me. But even within the framework of school, or again our own mundane world, Sally thrives, matures, and has so much fun with her friends, Yoshiko and Sumire. These two were probably my favorite part of the show next to Sally, and I think it could have been even better if there were more episodes centered on them. Yoshiko is like the platonic best friend that you always want to hang out with or visit their house. Not because they're the coolest or smartest or funniest, but because they're down for anything you'd like to do without judgment or selfishness.
失礼しました。でも美味しかったな。
Yoshiko's goofy appearance and demeanor is somewhat deceptive. She's also endearingly clever, competent, and reliable. Since her mother passed away, Yo-chan had to mature fast to take care of her younger brothers. I love how this responsibility never goes to Yoshiko's head. She's not bossy around people her age, but knows how to be strict with her siblings. It's always tough love, and she wants to do her best raising them in the absence of their mother. She's such a fantastic conduit for Sally to care and understand humanity. My favorite moment is when she misses her mom, and Sally uses magic to have Yoshiko get to see her. Turns out her mom gets to make clouds in heaven, so now when the family sees a cool looking cloud, they say, "Oh, mom made that." It's like, oh! Seriously, best friend characters are so hard to come by. This is one of the best ones I've seen. And Sumire is like the inverse of Yoshiko, where she seems all put together and perfect only to be anything but. She's very sheltered, so she's not exactly talented or smart or physically fit, but her best quality is that she wants to be. Don't get me wrong, she isn't totally immature. She's very kind and well-meaning, but I enjoy how weak and flawed she is despite her appearances. What can I say? I love a character that constantly eats dirt. She's easily scared, angry, and can cry up a storm. My favorite episode is when Sumire tussles with this edgy boy in their class. It's very cute and endearing. Just a side note, yeah, the animation is very, very primitive for 1967. They were clearly struggling making a weekly production, but oh my god, when the animation is often so charming, and I like to think it's a very early example of the kind of animation you would get in Sailor Moon, when there's a great focus on character expression and just really silly imagery. It's fantastic. I really loved this character, Unfortunately, he is not recurring. This is the only episode he's in. On Earth, there's just Sally's teacher, Yoshiko's father, and her triplet brothers, who are anime original and probably take up more screen time than they should with their constant slapstick behavior, as well as Ken, who shows up in fewer than 5 episodes, but that's still a better tally than most. On the magic side is Sally's parents and grandparents, and there's a young girl who shows up towards the end of the show named Poron, who I do think is the ancestor of characters in this genre like Chibiusa or Hana. But finally there's Cub, a servant of the Magic Kingdom that pretends to be Sally's brother. He's a little younger and immature than Sally and has slightly less magical talent than her, but lives casually on Earth alongside her despite being tasked with bringing her back. There's no other series in this genre that I've seen that has a character quite like Cub, because he fills a number of different roles depending on the story. He's a companion for Sally, a nuisance, a sidekick, a rival, an antagonist, even a deuteragonist in the remake. Cub is somebody Sally can talk to and clash against as a fellow witch. He learns and grows just as much as Sally. There's no primary villain in this series, just the occasional bully or criminal or wicked creature from the land of magic, so it's often left to Cub to cause trouble and provoke Sally into using magic. Sally is my favorite character, but I think Cub is the most interesting character, because you don't know what side he'll take in a given situation. The original Sally the Witch ran 109 episodes, and it was followed by an 88-episode remake in 1989. Airing after the genre had really established itself, we started to see more tropes implemented in Sally. There's an animal mascot, though it functions nothing like one. Dabu Dabu is a cat less like Luna and more like Gigi. He's someone that hangs out with Poron while Sally has her friends and Cub has his. Sally has a lot more gadgets in this one. She's still able to cast magic with hands and winks, but Sally almost exclusively uses a wand now, with the exact same incantation as the signature OP. She also gets a compact mirror she can FaceTime her parents with, a pendant that can heal wounds, a different pendant that allows her to transform into anything, but on a time limit like she's Ultraman, and a jewelry box that seems to amplify all of her magic. Frankly, I found this approach to the magic a lot more contrived. It's hard not to see this as something to sell for children, especially following 109 episodes that didn't need any of this stuff. These devices did lead to good storytelling on occasion, but I think it also diluted Sally as a magical being into a magical being with items. The original Sally kept a framework of everyday life, sometimes adding outside forces like ogres, fairies, even other witches, but this was uncommon. It's a lot more common in the remake, where they don't just bring those supernatural creatures into the real world, they frequently steer away from the human world in favor of some made-up fantasy realm. There's other lands besides the magic realm, like Elfland and Heartland and Fairy World and the World of Dreams and Time World and TV World? Sally encounters the goddess of flowers or princesses from neighboring kingdoms, aliens. She visits Animal Heaven or the ocean sector of Fairyland, or gets sent to the Shadow Realm? Or Hell? I honestly checked out whenever this happened. While you can certainly weave compelling stories out of fantasy, it eroded the show's appealing contrast with the grounded everyday life. It just seems the sequel chose to lean more into fantasy as a crutch to make the show more imaginative or action-packed. But these episodes don't hold a candle to the original. When these fantasy realms are used, they are isolated from the real world. There's like a loose connection in meaning, but there's barely any actual crossover. In the original, when Sally attends her grandfather's party in what looks like hell, she invites Yoshiko and Sumire to come along.
He's laughing with another girl and playing with another heart. Placing high stakes, making hearts ache. He's loved in 7 languages.
Creating that source of tension. Instead of using some other world of make-believe, the writers took real-world issues of the time, like latchkey kids, the algal boom, or red tide of the 1960s, and most notably, car accidents. It was called the traffic war at the time, and it was a common problem. That's where you get this trope in anime and manga. I counted at least 7 traffic accidents in Season 1 and 4 in Season 2 with multiple close calls. This show is so old, a structure that's commonly seen in Japan today is considered a novelty. And it's a wicked source of drama. I felt more on the edge of my seat when Yoshiko was hit by a truck, and most of the episode takes place in a hospital waiting room, than any episode of Sally hurling off to Neverland. Even the remake has good, grounded episodes like this. One of my favorites is about Cub finally realizing he wants to go to school like Sally, for all the reasons I talked about earlier. It has barely anything to do with the magic and just tells a compelling story. That being said, one aspect I did like in the remake was introducing a magical rival for Sally. Although it's fine. Karen becomes friendly with Sally rather quickly, and it didn't amount to much. I still appreciated the attempt, and it's indicative of the remake's attempt to broaden the cast a bit. It has more development for these 2 students that are more recurring and have very distinct personalities, as well as a sharp-eyed neighbor that takes after the neighbor in Bewitched as the loony skeptic. Bewitched is credited as an influence on Sally for both the manga author and its anime producer, since it was a popular TV show in Japan at the time. I think this show is why they chose to keep Sally's magic a secret. Darren is highly antagonistic to almost any presence of magic, and it's assumed that hostile rejection of witchcraft is how everyone will react if they find out. But the trick is, Darren stays in spite of that fear, out of his love for Samantha, which is what's so fun about the show. The ignorance of her nosy neighbors is also its own fun. So I get why you would want to keep it a secret to some characters, but the show works so well because Darren does know. I think it's a flawed choice for Sally when the characters just act dumb when magic happens right in front of them and they remain blissfully unaware almost the whole time. Magic is something Sally actively studies and practices. It's a part of who she is. Why not use her power whenever she can? She learns just as much about life, if not more, when she uses magic than when she doesn't. The problems she faces still require critical thinking, ingenuity, and her own determination to take on, regardless of whether or how magic is used. To me, it's not cheating for Sally to use a skill that's tied to studying and ability. Why does she have to hide who she is in order to keep her friends? Either she has friends, or she's a witch. Apparently, she can't have both.
ありゃ、いつの間に買っちゃったの？これ美味しいわね。まるで魔法を使ったみたい。あら、そうよ。脅かしちゃったんならごめんなさい。それよりあなたたちはどこに住んでるの？ねえ、薄気味悪いわ。帰りましょうよ。
But as it turns out, that was never true. When Sally makes the decision to return to the land of magic, she's unsure of how to say goodbye to her friends. Worried about how to tell them she's a witch after all this time. They just wouldn't believe her and laugh her off. And she'd be unable to say goodbye properly. I even saw it coming. I knew what would happen. And yet they still nailed it.
さっきはごめんなさい。だってびっくりしちゃったんだもん。
サリーちゃん、君がなんだって僕たちの気持ちは変わりゃしないよ。
そうよ。サリーちゃんはやっぱりサリーちゃんよ。魔法使いだって構わないわ。本当？私、まだあなたたちのお友達なの？ありがとう。ありがとう。
I get really emotional thinking about it. It's really beautiful and sad and, like, affirming. I think it shows that Sally could have kept living in the land of humans with her friends, and she didn't realize it until she had to pick one or the other. Sally, too, disagrees, apparently. It's often branded as Sally 2, because it starts with Sally already being friends with Yoshiko and Sumire. However, Poron is also there, and that is not canon to the original. Poron turned out to be a human who was reunited with her parents and moves to Brazil. This new series just has a whole other idea for Poron's origin. And they never explain where Dabu Dabu came from? He's just always been there? Okay! More than that, though, this feels more like a remake because Sally chooses to start from scratch, wipe everyone's memories of her, build a new house, and they act like the original doesn't exist.
友情の記憶が消えるのは悲しいけれど、また新しい友情をみんなで育てましょう。
They just had to keep the magic a secret, or else the show doesn't work, apparently. That would lose all the drama if the humans knew she was a witch. There'd be no point. But once again, the best episodes of Sally have almost nothing to do with whether or not she can keep the magic a secret. I think this was done because its target demographic weren't alive in the 1960s. That's what Akko's remake did, which aired before Sally's remake. They didn't even brand it that way. So why did they start it as a sequel? There are episodes in the original where Sally is shown to be able to manipulate people's emotions, but I don't remember her having the ability to just erase people's memories like that. What's the point of keeping any of this a secret anymore? You can just wipe their memory if they find out. They do it again in episode 2. So why would I as the viewer care about whether or not they find out? You've obliterated the entire point of the storytelling device. You can't do that. And now they're making Sally the witch with only women. What's going on? It even cheapens the ending of this remake, which plays the emotional farewell almost line for line. Only I can't help but think Sally is crying this time, not because she finally realizes her friends will always accept her and be her friends, but because her friends don't remember saying those exact things to her already. The last time she had to say goodbye to them. Having said that, the remake isn't trash. In fact, I enjoyed more episodes on average than the original, and it definitely has a better production behind it. I just care more about the highs of a series, and it doesn't come close to the first season's highs. I have assembled 26 episodes from Sally and 13 episodes from the remake. They're a mix of my favorite episodes and episodes that are important, like the first and last episodes. Lucky for you, 5 of these Sally 1 episodes have already been subbed, thanks to the Skaro Hunting Society and Anime Visalia. To be clear, I think the whole show is worth watching, and I think there are multiple episodes that'll be a lot better once they're translated. Episodes I've mentioned earlier are here, like Sally being unable to cry, Yoshiko's traffic accident, Grandpa's party, and Sumire's boyfriend, but among my favorite episodes that I haven't mentioned already would be episode 28, which is all about ballet. I love the variety of comedy, drama, character, animation, and music. It's just like a perfect episode. As well as episode 60 about an Indian transfer student that felt so unexpected, delicate, heavy, uplifting, really special. As for the remake, I was gravitated to 2 episodes with incredibly cute guest characters. There's a sparrow fairy from Birdland, I guess, who takes an extreme liking to Cub. It's very cute. And another episode with this troubled young girl with her plush raccoon possessed by the spirit of her former pet. Kinda morbid, but again, really, really cute. Other episodes have a strong focus on main characters, like Yoshiko's dad potentially remarrying and all the drama of that, Sally's teacher losing her magic, and multiple strong Cub-focused episodes. If you think he's a gremlin and jerk in the original, I think these episodes could really turn you around on him. He's actually a very complex character. I definitely think that's the best material for him. Again, none of the 80s series is subbed yet, except for a TV special that's centered on Poran's mother. It's another episode that happens isolated from the real world, but hey, at least Yoshiko, Sumire, and the triplets are there with them for a change. Ever since Man Mode talked about Sally the Witch in such loving regard years ago on Core's channel, I've been meaning to get to the bottom of this series. Frankly, I still haven't yet, because in all that time, no more than 14 episodes and the TV movie have been subbed. I'm looking forward to inevitably revisiting and reevaluating the show when it is translated, because there could be even more incredible nuggets like this.
魔女になりたい。これが私の夢であった。欲張りのせいか、なりたいものがたくさんあったからだ。宇宙飛行士になって火星に一番乗りをするとか、世界的に有名な外科医になってダメだと言われた手術に成功する。みんなからは男の子みたいだと言われても仕方がない。けれど私も女の子、有名なピアニストになったり、バレエのプリマになって世界中を踊り回る。超満員のお客様からの嵐のような拍手と歓声。お金持ちの娘になって贅沢な生活をしてみたいとも思う。ところで私は毎日学校が終わると晩ご飯の支度のことで頭がいっぱいになる。母がいないからだ。うちには弟たちがお腹を空かせて待っている。ご飯の支度をしながらいつも母のことを思い出します。私は弟たちを叱ってばかりいますが、母は一度も私たちを叱りませんでした。 母は私たちが悪いことをした時にはいつも私たちを叱らないで、母自身の子供の時のいたずらの話をして、自分も両親をよく困らしたものだと苦笑するだけでした。私はこんな時の母が一番好きでした。母であると同時に何でも話せる友達であるからです。母の子供の頃の話を聞いていると、私たちはもう二度と悪いことをしてこの母を困らせまいと心に誓うのでした。そんな母が死んでからというもの、弟たちの乱暴が激しくなりました。母がいなくなった寂しさをどこにぶつけていいのかわからなくなっているのかもしれません。私たちが尊敬し、何でも知っていて素晴らしい人は母です。何でもできるのがそうなら、母は私たちにとって魔女かもしれません。大きくなったら私もきっと母みたいな人になろうと思います。